about of other gaps, shorter gaps that we have looked at that are right inside the book of Revelation. You want to give me an example? Anybody? If you want to. I mean, if you don't know, I'll just bring them up. And
is there one in the sixth seal?
Exactly. Sixth seal is seventh trumpet. Apocalypse. Yes, the sixth seal in Revelation, Revelation 6, verse 12. Traduit.
Donc, on a un autre gap dans Apocalypse chapitre 6, le verset 12.
Now, when we, of course, we know the prophets here. We know that in here, when he reads verse 12, and that's right inside of that verse. Now, this is a short gap, but it's still a gap, 30 days. Go ahead, Sister Lisa, you want to read verse 12?
And I looked when he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood.
Okay, Brenda.
Brenda, Apocalypse chapitre 6, le verset 12.
Je regardais quand il ouvrit le sixième sceau, et il y eut un grand tremblement de terre. Le soleil devint noir comme un sac de crin. La lune entière devint comme du sang.
Okay, so we know, we've explained it a number of times. I won't go through the whole thing for even though Brenda and Tatiana would probably need to be explained, but we're doing a lot of explaining. But we know that when the sixth seal opens there, 1,261 days after the sacrifice is taken away. Is it James?
Donc, c'est sûr qu'ici, on a beaucoup de choses à expliquer, étant donné que Brenda et Tatiana sont encore un peu nouvelles sur ça. Mais nous savons que lorsque le sixième sceau s'ouvre, il y a approximativement 1261 jours depuis le jour où le sacrifice a été interrompu, comme on a vu dans Daniel 9, le verset 27.
Right. Okay. And so that happens. We know that's at the end, at the opening of the sixth seal, but immediately after he says that, when he had opened the sixth seal, immediately we skip 30 days. And everything else that is mentioned from even within that verse 12, all the way to the end of verse 17, happens on the 30th day, which is the last day of the sixth seal.
Et nous voyons ici que dans le verset 12, immédiatement après que le sixième sceau a été ouvert, on a directement un gap, un écart de 30 jours qui nous ramène jusqu'à le dernier jour de cet âge et littéralement la deuxième moitié du verset 12 jusqu'à la fin du verset.
Is it verse 2? No, verse 3 tells us about the two witnesses that they will prophesy 1,260 days.
Et Apocalypse chapitre 11, le verset 3 nous dit que les deux témoins vont prophétiser sur une période de 1260 jours.
So we have a 30-day difference between Daniel's prophecy and what John is told in Revelation 11.
Donc nous avons une différence de 30 jours entre la prophétie de Daniel et ce que John a été dit dans Apocalypse chapitre 11 sur le ministère des 2 témoins.
Okay, so this is where we get the 30 days. Alors c'est là qu'on a
Donc ça
le 30 jours.
ça
Okay.
c'est où on trouve les 30 jours.
And one more reference to this is in Revelation 13, verse 5, tells us that there was given unto him, speaking of the Antichrist, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And 42 months equals, it's 30 days per month, so it equals 1,260 days. So Daniel prophesied of an extra 30 days somewhere after this. Okay? Vas-y, Jim.
Non, c'est vrai que j'ai pas trop suivi le,
Ok, je peux le faire.
le début.
Il y a une référence supplémentaire qui s'accorde avec tout ça, c'est que dans Apocalypse 13, le verset 5, qui nous dit que, là-dessus, 13, 5,
13:5.
oui, vas-y, vas-y, Richie.
Il lui fut donné une bouche qui proférait des paroles arrogantes et des blasphèmes. Il lui fut donné le pouvoir d'agir pendant 42 mois.
Ok, donc, le 42 mois qui est donné à l'Antéchrist, qui est donné à l'Antéchrist le pouvoir d'agir pendant 42 mois. Le 42 mois, c'est des mois de 30 jours qui sont égales aux 1260 jours. Donc ça, c'est le règne de l'Antéchrist. Et ce que Daniel nous dit dans le chapitre 12, le verset 11, c'est qu'il y a un 30 jours supplémentaires après tout ça. 1290 jours. Une différence de 30 jours. C'est comme ça qu'on sait que le 6e sceau, c'est une période de 30 jours. Does that answer your question, Sister Brenda?
Oui, c'est correct.
OK. All right.
Entre le 6 et le 7, il y a 30 jours.
Le 6e sceau dure 30 jours.
Mais c'est ça,
Entre le 5 et le 7.
entre le 5 et le 7.
Ouais. Le 6e jour. So at the opening of the 6th seal, we have, from the opening to the last day, we have 30 days. It's the shortest seal, okay?
Donc, entre le début de l'ouverture du 6e sceau et sa fermeture, on a une période de 30 jours. Donc, c'est un sceau dont la période est quand même courte.
Right. Same gap is also where, Sister Lisa? The same 30-day gap, or Brother Thomas, or Sister Denise. You guys all know it.
I don't remember it.
It's the 7th trumpet.
Yeah.
What chapter? What verse? And it's right again in the middle of the verse. We got a 30-day gap.
Verse 19.
Okay? Donc, la 7e trompette, on a la même chose, le même écart de 30 jours. And that's in Revelation 11. Chapitre
Ça, c'est
11.
dans Apocalypse chapitre 11.
Verse 15, the trumpet sounds. That's the opening of the 6th seal, which is parallel to the 6th seal. Vas-y.
Au verset 15 de Apocalypse chapitre 11, on a le 7e ange qui sonne de sa trompette. Et c'est parallèle aussi au 6e sceau.
And from verse 15 all the way down to including the first sentence or statement, first sentence rather, of verse 19, that's the opening.
I want to say 19.
It's right in the middle of verse 19, right? Okay.
I thought it was 19, but I wasn't sure. I was afraid to say it to tell the truth.
Okay. It says end of,
Donc,
vas-y.
donc du verset 15 jusqu'à la première moitié du verset 19, ça c'est l'ouverture du 6e son.
Et la 7e trompette, c'est ça. And then the second phrase in verse 19, where it says, well, let's read verse 19. Go ahead, Sister Lisa.
And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail.
Okay.
Et le temple de Dieu dans le ciel fut ouvert, et l'arche de son alliance apparut dans son temple, et il y eut des éclairs, des voix, des tonnerres, un tremblement de terre et une forte grêle.
Okay. So that first, that where the temple of God is open in heaven, and there was seen in this temple the Ark of the Testament, that's on the first day of the 6th seal, when it opens. Right, Brother Thomas? Remember
Donc,
that? Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead,
your mic will.
Vas-y, tu peux traduire.
Ok. Et le temple de Dieu dans le ciel fut ouvert. Et l'arche de son alliance apparut dans son temple. Donc ça se passe premier jour de l'ouverture du 6e son.
And we find that in chapter, was it 15, 16? 16, just before the bowls of wrath.
Et on voit cela au chapitre 16, juste avant le déversement des coupes de colère.
And the remaining of verse 19, where it says, there were lightnings, voices, thunderings, and an earthquake, and great hail. That happens as the last bowl of wrath at the end of chapter 16.
Et le reste du verset 19, qui dit qu'il y eut des éclairs, des voix de tonnerre, un tremblement de terre et une forte grêle, se passe durant la dernière coupe de colère à la fin du chapitre 19.
16.
Chapitre 16.
Right. So there's that 30-day gap again.
Donc, il y a encore ce gap de 30 jours.
I forgot one gap. What about between Revelation 5 and Revelation 6? Brother Thomas, I got your ears perked up now to Revelation 5. Revelation 5 and verse 6. Is there a gap there between those two chapters?
Absolutely. In verse 6, and I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth.
Okay, wait. I meant chapters. The chapters.
Oh, chapter
5 and chapter 6. Is there a gap there?
Oh.
Donc, il demande que est-ce qu'il y a un gap entre le chapitre 5 et le chapitre 6?
What we
Can I
have.
ask if,
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Is that would that be considered a gap in chapter 6?
Well, I'll tell you why. When does chapter 5 take place?
Right, chapter 5 takes place at his resurrection.
Right. What year?
33 AD,
Correct.
so to speak.
Correct. James?
Pendant quelle période se passe le chapitre 5? Et on voit que le chapitre 5 se passe le jour de la résurrection à la résurrection du Seigneur Jésus-Christ dans l'an 33.
And when the first seal opens, when does that happen? What does the first seal mark?
Oh, that's here the beginning of the
The
tribulation.
first day of the tribulation. What year? Roughly,
Roughly. Yeah.
What year?
2036.
2026.
2026. Yeah?
Roughly.
40 all the way to 2026?
Next year.
Next year.
Whenever they build the temple and do the first sacrifice is when it starts.
As soon as the temple sacrifices.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we say, but okay, well, we say, well, what if it extends a little bit? Maybe.
So let me ask a quick question. You have the same angels that are bringing the trumpet judgments, are bringing the bowls of wrath too. Is it the same angels? Or are they different
I
angels?
think they are, right? But James, I think we think
Yes.
they
Yes.
seem to be the same. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the second half. Well, actually, after the second half.
After the second half.
And the trumpets.
But for me, those angels is like, but they are like a different name, because there's an angel who stands before God. That we did not say that for the previous one.
It's the angels that stand before God. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Ask a question again to just make sure I'm thinking right. Make sure. So when the first sacrifice is done, so from then that's like, is it the first sacrifice is done? That's when it starts, or when the temple's built?
That's after the temple's built.
I know that, but the starting of the tribulation is when they build the temple or when they do the sacrifice?
The first animal sacrifice.
Okay, so from that time, because there's two halves, so from that time we have 1,260 days till the second half starts.
Yes.
1,060
Yes,
days.
to the second half. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we estimate 2026, from the day of resurrection in 33, how many years is that? 1,293? Yeah, 93.
Yes.
I mean, nothing's impossible, but there's no events happening to determine that a third temple is being built. Not that it can't happen in like next week, but
For me, there is something that is very important. If we think in the term of the age of the earth, because for me that is the point. If the age of the earth is need to be done in 7,000 years, like we see in Genesis, like if really the day of rest is the millennium, it means that everything need to be finished in 6,000 years, right? With the millennium to have 7,000 years. So if we take the age of the earth,
you gotta translate that.
Yeah,
yes.
je vais traduire.
Maybe I'm going to speak in French.
I'll practice my French, but yeah.
We need the gift of the Spirit now.
Ce que James est en train d'amener à Thomas, puis est-ce que Thomas dit, est-ce que vraiment des signes sont là partout? Si on comprend que la durée de l'homme sur Terre est de 1000 ans et que Dieu a créé le ciel et la terre en 6 jours et que le 7e jour est le jour du repos et chaque jour représente 1000 ans, comme Pierre a dit qu'un jour pour le Seigneur est comme 1000 ans et 1000 ans comme un jour. Alors, il faut que tout soit accompli en 6000 ans avant qu'il y ait le jour du repos. Et il y a eu 4000 ans avant la venue du Seigneur Jésus-Christ, 4000 ans dans l'Ancien Testament, 2000 ans depuis que Jésus est venu, est mort, est ressuscité. Donc, on arrive à ce point que 6000 ans est accompli. Okay, so we are getting to that point where the 6,000 years is it's at its end. We're there.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a gap just between chapter 5 of Revelation and chapter 6 of 1,993 years. Vas-y, Fred.
So if we're looking at events, just current events, which is important, things will have to really move even though they are
over there. The greater Israel, they already taken that back. They already eliminating, doing the ethnic cleansing and getting rid of everyone. They already got all the materials ready for the third temple. It's all built. They got this $3 million menorah at the Temple Institute. They have the priesthood already trained and practice sacrifices, and they already got the red heifers. They got everything. They're already taking possession of everything, and they're already controlling all the nation through as the Bible says, that all the kings of the earth have committed fornication with the great whore. And they're all following directives from the synagogue of Satan, which is the great whore. And you can look at whether it was Biden, whether it's Trump, whoever it is, which is where we're under. We know they received their instructions from somebody. They're puppets.
We need the man in sin to be revealed also, though.
He has been
I also have something that is very important to be added. Is the knowledge that we have in this book right now. Because this is even the most important proof that really we are in the last days, because this book is open right now. And then we read and we understand.
True.
It's not a small, it's a great sign.
We also have to remember the modern times that we live in, and it doesn't really take that long to demolish one thing and build another.
AI,
temple can be built
right?
very quickly.
AI, humanoids replacing humans, depopulation taking place, all these things, 15-minute cities, smart cities, all these events. On va faire un petit résumé français de tout ce qu'on vient de dire. On parle de l'intelligence artificielle, les humanoïdes qui sont en train de remplacer la race humaine, la dépopulation, quoi d'autre qu'on a mentionné, les événements qui se passent en Israël, le Greater Israël, la connaissance que l'on a.
L'éradication des ennemis, exact.
Des quoi?
L'éradication de l'ethnie, comme ils sont en train de faire au niveau des Palestiniens.
Oui, exactement. La purification ethnique dans le plus grand Israël et tout ce qui est en train de se produire présentement. Le système monétaire, the money system, where cash is about disappeared. China hasn't had any cash for years. We're getting there very soon. All these things are in place. En français, je reviens en français, à l'Institut du Temple, il y a déjà tous les meubles pour le troisième temple qui sont construits. Il y a déjà les sacrificateurs qui ont été formés pour offrir des sacrifices. Ils ont déjà les vaches rouges. Ils ont déjà toutes ces choses qui sont en place, qui sont prêtes. Et le système financier est sur le point de complètement être anéanti et faire un reset. The reset is about to take place. So we are extremely close.
And they already test a small type of the mark of the beast. It's not even the mark of the beast, but they try the earth, the whole world, with
Yeah.
the coronavirus to see how people are going to react. And many people fail, even the church, they fail. So everything is already
C'est ça, la marque de la
in
bête.
place.
Tout a déjà été éprouvé. Comment les gens vont le prendre, de quelle manière ils le font, on sait même pas parce qu'il y a tellement de possibilités à travers l'intelligence artificielle, à travers les puces électroniques, à travers des codes QR, quoi que ce soit. Et le test qui a été fait avec la vaccination pour le coronavirus, les gens se sont précipités pour prendre le vaccin qui tue les gens. Et les gens vont se précipiter de la même manière pour prendre la marque qui sera certainement pas appelée une marque, la marque de la bête. And this mark of the beast is not going to be called the mark of the beast, of course. It's going to be something great that's going to seem great privileges, the high class, the whatever, all the bribes that they've done to get people to take it. So signs, they're everywhere. Wars are everywhere. Nation against nation. Rumors of war, trade wars between Canada and the USA, between USA and Mexico. Famine is all over the place. I had 3 guys yesterday that in Africa that were in desperate need, that I would send them something so they could eat, feed their families. And that's only a small fraction, right? It's everywhere.
The natural cry, travel, the earthquakes, all these things, tsunami, all happen also.
Yeah.
I quit looking for all the things that you're talking about. I figured that's just the beginning of sorrows. So I have learned that when the temple is built,
That's it.
that's it. So that's all I'm waiting. I'm not waiting on. I'm not looking at so much world events anymore and focusing on what all is happening, because it's all going to lead to that. And until that happens, there's not going to be no tribulation.
Right.
So
okay.
that's where I'm focused on. That's how I set my mind.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, totally agree.
Let me go.
That's a big mark.
Is there a time of peace in there somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. And we're probably getting close to that. That it's going to be some kind of time of peace, so that because I cannot see them rebuilding this temple in a time of war.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
But what about where does that scripture fit in where Jesus said, when they call peace, sudden destruction comes?
Peace and safety, that's in Thessalonians. Paul said that.
Yeah.
And that's in the beginning of the, that'd probably be right around there, close. And probably, what do you think? And we talked about that, I think, before on the group. Go ahead, Bud James.
Yes, I think it's going to happen just before the beginning of the tribulation. Like Brother Mike said, when the temple is going to be built. Because it's there, because things are going to be normal,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. See, think to translate it, Brother James, but the Jews have been promising the world peace for years.
Mm-hmm.
Donc, les Juifs ont promis la paix au monde depuis des années.
And the way that they have said what they have said, and I remember seeing that some years ago, that peace cannot be attained until there is a third temple.
Et la façon dont ils l'ont promulgué à travers le monde, c'est que la paix ne peut pas arriver sur la terre tant qu'il n'y ait pas la construction de leur temple.
So that on the day that they will likely sacrifice or that they dedicate the temple, which is going to be probably just before they start sacrificing, they will say, now peace and safety will be on the earth.
I sent that.
Just,
you want to translate?
Yeah, just hold on. Let him
Yes.
say the new. Go ahead, Banto.
Dans le jour où ils vont construire le temple, juste le premier jour avant même que le sacrifice perpétuel, premier sacrifice perpétuel ait lieu dans le temple, ils vont crier la paix, paix sur la terre.
Parce qu'ils vont avoir leur troisième temple.
Yeah, I put on WhatsApp that there's not an earthquake, a volcano.
Yeah, you did.
That the seismic activity is over 10 times, and
Yeah.
hasn't been that type of activity in decades, they said.
Yeah. So
Mm.
it's everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere.
I just want to say something that, peut-être je vais dire en français. Paul dit quelque chose aussi dans le livre de Romains, que la création tout entière attend avec un ardent désir la révélation des fils de Dieu. Et cette création, c'est même la nature qui soupire après sa restauration. Parce qu'à cause du péché, elle a été aussi endommagée.
Paul also said that in Romans that all of creation is crying out, or I forget how it says in French, is looking for the manifestation of the sons of God, because even nature and creation was affected by the introduction of sin on the earth. Okay, Sister Brenda.
Lorsqu'on dit la paix ne pourra pas arriver sur la terre tant que la construction de leur temple ne sera pas faite, on parle du troisième temple dans le verset 27, c'est ça?
Exact.
La construction du troisième temple.
Exact.
Okay.
Exact.
D'accord.
She was asking, so she was saying, so we're talking this temple here, peace could not come until that temple. We're talking about that third temple in verse 27 of Daniel 9. Yes, we said, yes, that's it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we've seen a few gaps, and actually we didn't look at all. We could look at in Luke 21, there's twice a gap. And in chapter 12 of Revelation, in chapter 7, I think we just saw gaps last Sunday night when we looked at gaps. Oh, yeah. Sometimes we have meetings, most of the time on Sunday nights, Sister Denise, if you want to, I can send you the links if you ever decide you want to join.
Another meeting on?
Yeah, originally it was for we wanted to do French meetings, but we're getting invaded by those English people.
Okay. Is it the same link or?
Yes, it is. And what time do we do it? Is it 7:30 or 8 or 8:30? I forget now.
7:30.
I think it's
7:30. Yeah, 7:30. Yeah.
Eastern?
Yep. Yeah, 7:30 our time. Yeah.
And that's Sundays.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not eschatology. Sometimes we've gone on different topics. But last week it was on. We did chapter 7 together. It was good. But I got it recorded. I forgot to publish it. Again, I have a number of things to publish and to send to you for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's in addition to Tuesdays. So
Yeah.
still doing Tuesdays. So.
Yeah. And most of the time we do it bilingual. But last week we didn't have anybody that spoke French. I think we did. It was only in English. So.
Okay.
You're still doing Tuesdays?
Yeah. We have. Yeah. All right. So, do we want to look at other gaps?
Daniel 12.
Oh, Daniel 12. Well, you took me by surprise there. Yeah. I didn't think of that, but yeah, it's probably the same one that's in the. Oh yeah, there's a lot in Daniel 12, right? Yeah. Wow. Hold on, let me see. I think we're probably gonna have to do a second recording here. Oh no, it's still okay. We still got half an hour. Okay, good. Where are we at? Vas-y, James, je vais traduire en anglais.
Mais Brenda, tu peux lire, s'il te plaît, Daniel 12, le verset 1 à 2. 1 à 3, c'est ça?
So, but James is going to do it in French now,
En ce,
translate in English. Okay, Daniel
en ce
12,
temps-là,
okay, verses 1 to 3.
ok,
Okay, just so we can get ready.
je
Okay,
peux lire.
vas-y, ça, Brenda, désolé.
Ok. En ce temps-là se lèvera Michaël, le grand chef, le défenseur des enfants de ton peuple, et ce sera une époque de détresse telle qu'il n'y en a point eu de semblable depuis que les nations existent jusqu'à cette époque. En ce temps-là, ceux de ton peuple qui seront trouvés inscrits dans le livre seront sauvés. Plusieurs de ceux qui dorment dans la poussière de la terre se réveilleront, les uns pour la vie éternelle, les autres pour l'opprobre, pour la honte éternelle. Ceux qui auront été intelligents brilleront comme la splendeur du ciel, et ceux qui auront enseigné la justice à la multitude brilleront comme les étoiles, à toujours et à perpétuité.
Are you reading, Sister Lisa? Or?
I'm trying. I just got back. I had to step away. But Daniel 12?
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Verses 1 to 3.
Okay. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever.
Donc, on voit ici que dans le chapitre 12, on a deux gaps entre le verset 1 et le verset 2.
So we see here that in chapter 12, we have two gaps between verses 1, within verse 1 and verse 2.
Donc, au verset 1, on a un gap qui part du milieu de la tribulation jusqu'à la fin du 6e sceau.
Okay, so in verse 1, we have a gap here that goes from the or a period of time that covers from the middle of the tribulation until the beginning of the 6th seal, the end of the 6th seal.
The end of the 6th seal.
So we have from that, yeah, it covers the second half of the tribulation. Okay.
Donc, on a un gap de 1290 jours.
Mais c'est un gap ou c'est une période?
Un gap de 90 jours entre le début de la tribulation et la résurrection, et la première résurrection.
Okay. So there's a gap here that, of 1,290 days, or my eyes are not functioning well here.
Yes, 90 days.
Okay, between there's a mention of the middle of the tribulation, and there's a mention of the end of the tribulation, of the resurrection. So we have a gap there of 3.5 years.
Et ensuite, la première résurrection, c'est ceux qui seront trouvés dans le livre, qui seront sauvés. That is the mention of the first, la mention de la première résurrection.
So it mentions the first resurrection, speaking of those that would be saved, those that were in the church, and so this is the first gap that's between the first half and the first resurrection. Then,
Et ensuite, entre le verset 1 et le verset 2, on saute jusqu'à la fin du millénium dans à peu près un gap de 1000 ans, au moins 1000 ans.
and then between verse 1 and verse 2, there's a jump ahead of right up to the end of the millennium. So we have a jump there of about 1,000 years, a gap there of about 1,000 years between verse 1 and 2.
Où on retrouve la deuxième résurrection, ou devant le jugement du grand trône blanc.
Where we find the second resurrection unto the judgment of the great white throne.
Ah,
Okay.
c'est tout.
So there's two gaps there. Okay, one from between the middle of the tribulation, the first resurrection, and then the white throne judgment. Yeah, so two gaps. Yeah, okay.
But when it says Michael shall stand up, the great prince, do you see that in Revelation?
Yeah, we got that in Revelation chapter 12. That's coming up soon. That will be soon be covering that. Okay, and that's right in the middle of the tribulation. Yeah. Okay, so we have gaps there. All right. In Luke 21, we have two gaps. It's basically the same gap. One is in reverse, and then it goes back forward. We can take a quick peek at that. Luke 21.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yes.
So is there a gap if that's Revelation 12 where Michael stands up? Then he says, then there shall be a time of trouble. Is those two verses a gap?
Well,
When Michael stands
No.
up and then the time of trouble?
We'll go there
No?
in chapter 12 in a minute. We'll look at that. Okay, because there's a number of gaps there in chapter 12. There's It's quite Let's go to Luke 21. Or we can go to chapter Revelation 12 now, and then we'll come back to Luke 21.
No, you was on your way to Luke. I interrupted.
Okay, let's go to Luke 21. Because Luke 21, Matthew 24, and Mark 13 are very similar. They're all about the tribulation, a period of tribulation and great distress that end up in the desolation of Jerusalem. But Luke, Mark and Matthew are speaking of the same, pretty much the same thing. That mainly it's all about the end of the age tribulation. But Luke is quite unique in the way that he starts with the beginning of sorrows. Do we all understand? Excuse-moi,
Donc, Luc est assez unique de la façon dont il commence avec dans la façon dont il fait sa description avec le commencement des douleurs.
Do we all know what we mean by beginning of sorrows?
Nous savons tous ce que signifie le commencement des douleurs. Brenda, Tatiana.
Le commencement des douleurs.
Ouais.
Oui, tu connais un peu ce que ça signifie.
Non, pas vraiment.
Non.
C'est avant le sacrifice.
No, c'est
les tremblements de terre.
the beginning of sorrows. The beginning of sorrows is the period, the final period, or the final countdown before the tribulation begins. That's simple.
Donc, le commencement là, des douleurs, c'est la période, le décompte final, la période de décompte final avant que la tribulation ne commence.
Et c'est ça qui
Donc,
mène à la
présentement,
nouvelle naissance.
Comment?
non, c'est la tribulation. Donc, maintenant, si nous sommes dans le commencement des douleurs, présentement, parce que bientôt la tribulation va commencer.
Ok.
Anything on that,
Ce
Brother
sont les
Thomas?
signes des derniers temps, c'est ça.
Exact,
Si tu
qui précède la tribulation.
Exact.
Ok.
La nature crie pour avertir l'humanité et en même temps, elle crie à Dieu pour juger l'humanité. C'est tout ce qui se fait. OK? Donc, c'est
Well,
ça.
aren't we in that time now, though?
Yes, correct. Yes, we are in the beginning of sorrows right now, and we're getting close to the end of it to get into the birth pains.
Mm-hmm.
OK? Et on va bientôt entrer dans les douleurs de l'enfantement. OK? Et on va avoir plus de détails là-dessus bientôt. OK? We're going to have a lot of details on
What
that
will we
too.
see?
Pardon me?
What will we see? What will be happening to let us know that we're in the end?
The transition,
Mm-hmm.
it's the temple.
Okay.
It's the temple, and when the first daily sacrifice, not the burning of the red heifers,
Mm-hmm.
but the first daily sacrifice, that there's going to be a number of signs: first trumpet, judgment, the earthquake, the light earthquake. That's probably going to be global. Just before, and there's going to be a lot of things happening. But as I think it was you, Sister Denise, who mentioned it, that there's going to be a time of peace.
Time of peace,
right? So, but this the third temple is as Sister Lisa said, that's the big thing right now that's going to take place. Go ahead, Sister Brenda.
Et durant cette période, il y aura des événements comme la famine, la tribulation, les faux prophètes, c'est ça.
Présentement, comme si elle est présentement. Comme ce qui se passe présentement, c'est ça qu'il y a partout. Les tremblements de terre, la famine, les pestes. Je sais pas si c'est dit comme ça en français, le pestilence, les différentes maladies. Hein, oui, les pestes, OK. Et tout ça, et on se rend compte, je me souviens quand on lisait ça dans le passé, je pensais que les pestes, ben, c'est ça des maladies naturelles, mais là, on se rend compte qu'ils sont créés. Ils sont créés par le World Health, l'Organisation mondiale de la santé. Okay, so I was just showing that, explaining that the things that we see right now are applicable to the beginning of sorrows, like famines, false prophets, pestilences, which in times past I used to think that meant natural diseases, but now we know that they are created by the World Health Organization. You know, and earthquakes, great signs in the heavens, and all kinds of stuff. This is all happening, and as a warning that we are approaching to the last period. Okay.
What about the measles?
The which?
The measles.
Yeah. Stuff like that. And there may be some that happen naturally, but we know there's also a lot that are created.
Right. Yeah.
And
like
also, one thing that Luke says, we're going there to Luke 21. He also calls for, let's go to Luke 21. And then we'll show the two gaps there in Luke 21. Quite amazing, too, the way it's written in Luke. Only the Lord can do stuff like that, you know. Only God can. Luke 21, where it says, See, let's go to Luke 21, verse. We'll start at verse 7 to 11, and that is really, though Luke does not call it the beginning of sorrows, Mark and Matthew describe the same event, and they both call it the beginning of sorrows. That's in Matthew. That's Matthew 24, verses 3 to 8. Excuse-moi, James, j'en ai dit une pleine bouchée.
Ah, mais c'est pas grave. Mais quand on regarde dans le livre de Luc, après, Matthieu et Marc appellent cette période-là qui précède la tribulation, le commencement des douleurs. Pourtant, Luc lui présente ça autrement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's read Luke 21, verses 7 to 11.
Donc, lisons Luc 21, du verset 7 au verset 11.
Il lui demandait, Maître, quand donc cela arrivera-t-il et à quel signe connaîtra-t-on que ces choses vont arriver? Jésus répondit, Prenez garde que vous ne soyez séduits, car plusieurs viendront en mon nom, disant c'est moi, et le temps approche. Ne les suivez pas. Quand vous entendrez parler de guerre et de soulèvement, ne soyez pas effrayés, car il faut que ces choses arrivent premièrement, mais ce ne sera pas encore la fin. Alors il leur dit, une nation s'élèvera contre une nation, et un royaume contre un royaume. Il y aura de grands tremblements de terre, et en divers lieux des pestes et des famines. Il y aura des phénomènes terribles et de grands signes dans le ciel.
Okay. In English.
And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven.
Okay, here's a few things. Here it says, the end is not by and by. Okay, so this is. Vas-y.
Donc,
verset.
voici certaines choses, le verset 9, c'est ça, non?
Oui, 9, oui.
Mais ce ne sera pas si tôt la fin.
Okay, so it says here the end's not by and by, so it says that it's not the end yet. All these things are happening, but we're not quite at the end yet. Okay.
Donc, il est en train de dire que nous ne sommes pas encore vraiment à la fin. Ces choses arrivent, mais ce n'est pas encore la fin.
And we can compare that with Matthew 24, verse. Let's go there. We'll read it. And we're going to see there's quite a difference the way things are presented. Matthew 20. Vas-y.
Et nous pouvons aller comparer ça dans Matthieu chapitre 24 et nous allons voir qu'il y a quand même des spécificités ou des différences de la manière dont cela est présenté.
So let's read verses 3 to 8.
Donc, lisons du verset 3 au verset 8.
Il s'assit sur la montagne des Oliviers et les disciples vinrent en particulier lui faire cette question. Dis-nous quand cela arrivera-t-il et quel sera le signe de ton avènement et de la fin du monde? Jésus leur répondit, prenez garde que personne ne vous séduise, Car plusieurs viendront sous mon nom, disant c'est moi qui suis le Christ, et ils séduiront beaucoup de gens. Vous entendrez parler de guerre, de bruit de guerre. Gardez-vous d'être troublés, car il faut que ces choses arrivent, mais ce ne sera pas encore la fin. Une nation s'élèvera contre une nation, un royaume contre un royaume, et il y aura en divers lieux des famines et des tremblements de terre. Tout cela ne sera que le commencement des douleurs.
English.
And he sat upon the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
Okay, I want to say in verse 6, remember, you see how Matthew, how he says, but the end is not yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Et vous voyez au verset 6 de Matthieu, ça dit, mais ce ne sera pas encore la fin.
Same thing as Luke 21:9, I believe, where he says, but the end is not by and by.
Même chose que Luc, au chapitre 21, au verset 9, qui dit que la fin n'arrivera pas, ne sera pas encore si tôt.
Okay, so and we can recognize that the description of the events here of the catastrophes are the same in Luke and in Matthew.
Et nous pouvons voir ici que l'énumération des catastrophes est quasiment la même chose dans Luc que dans Matthieu.
Okay.
I felt to bring something there. Il me sent conduit d'ajouter quelque chose ici avant qu'on ne continue.
Okay, yeah, but James wants to bring something else before we continue. Okay.
C'est sur la place où ça dit, et je vais encore mentionner ça, c'est qu'on avait déjà discuté ça, mais je vais ramener ça parce que c'est quand même important. La Bible dit, plusieurs viendront sous mon nom, disant, c'est moi qui suis le Christ. Et ils séduiront beaucoup de gens, avant même que la tribulation ne commence. Et on a des gens qui s'appellent des arianistes, qui croient que Jésus-Christ est véritablement le Fils de Dieu. Et parfois, on peut juste fermer les yeux et les suivre, mais pourtant, il y a plusieurs enseignements qui sont très séducteurs à l'intérieur.
Okay, so what he's saying is the mention here that there shall be many shall come in my name, saying I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And we have talked about this before, and we have there are many Arianists who believe that Jesus is the Son of God, but there is a deception there.
Donc, ce n'est pas juste à suivre toute leur doctrine. C'est pas parce que quelqu'un confesse que Jésus-Christ est le Fils de Dieu que automatiquement on doit suivre les enseignements avec les yeux fermés.
So it's not because somebody will say that Jesus is the Son of God that we will follow their teachings with our eyes closed.
C'est tout.
Okay, so all right, okay, so that's another thing, right? We need to be careful of what we read and hear, right? Okay, now here's the thing. The interesting thing that he ends here describing in Matthew says, all these are the beginning of sorrows.
Donc, ici, c'est écrit dans Matthieu 24, le verset 8, que tout cela ne sera que le commencement des douleurs.
And verse 9 goes in a forward motion towards the future, saying, then. Right? When you say then, means after this.
Bon, et le verset 9 va continuer en allant un peu à décrivant les événements dans le futur, en commençant par alors. Donc, quand on dit alors, ça veut dire qu'on est passé à quelque chose après, next.
Exactly. So, and here, this is where we're going to go back to Luke 21, and he speaks differently.
Donc, c'est pour cela qu'on va, alors, on va repartir à Luc chapitre 21, et on va voir que Luc présente ça différemment.
We finished in Luke 21 with verse 11, where it says, earthquakes, diverse places, famines, pestilences, fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven.
Donc, Luc au verset 11, Luc va dire, il y aura des grands tremblements de terre et en divers lieux des pestes, des famines, et il y aura des phénomènes terribles et des grands signes dans le ciel.
But verse 12, look at what he says. But before all these. So he's not going in a forward motion, but he's going in a backward motion to previous events that happened before that period of the beginning of sorrows.
Wouldn't this, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Brother James.
Translate, then we'll get you to
Ok, ben, regardez comment il présente le verset 12. Il dit, mais avant tout cela, on mettra les mains sur vous et on vous livrera et l'on vous persécutera. Donc, Luc, il rentre encore en arrière, bien en arrière, même avant même que le commencement des douleurs ne commence.
Mm-hmm. And when we begin to read what Luke describes in verse 21, he describes the desolation of Jerusalem in 70 AD, the second desolation of Jerusalem.
And he was... Oh, again, sorry, I had a question. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, Brother James. Hold on, Brother James. We'll get Sister Lisa's. I know Brother Tom is just grasping all this stuff here, and I'll get Sister Lisa to say what she had to say. Go ahead, Sister Lisa.
So here, when it says before all these things, and you're saying that's the desolation too, but it's also what happened here too in Acts, right?
Exactly.
The what they did to him in Acts.
So he goes back. There's a gap here in reverse direction of approximately one. So if that would be beginning of sorrows, would be, okay, right now we're in, let's say, 2025, and we go back to when the church was born and the persecution began, which would be in year 33, 34, then we would have about 1,990 year gap in reverse.
Yes. So in Luke 21:20, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, that's 70 AD, and then it jumps.
I will show you exactly where the jump forward is. He comes right back.
That's some gap.
As another gap. He comes right back to the last day of the age, not the beginning of the tribulation.
Wow. I always thought that verse was the last day of the tribulation.
No. See? And all this, and there's so many differences here between Luke 21 and Matthew 24. Go ahead, Brother James. Sorry.
Donc, au verset 12, on voit qu'on rentre encore en arrière à partir du verset 12, quand on dit, mais avant tout cela, parce que avant le verset 12, il a décrit le commencement des douleurs. Mais à partir du verset 12, il dit avant cela, donc avant que le commencement de douleur ne prenne place, donc il rentre avant le commencement de douleur pour nous ramener jusqu'à la résurrection du Seigneur Jésus-Christ. Donc à partir de l'église à la désolation de Jérusalem. Donc même avant même la désolation de Jérusalem, vraiment à la crucifixion du Seigneur Jésus-Christ. Donc là, on parle de l'an 34. Il va décrire les événements qui se sont passés là-bas.
You see that, Brother Thomas?
Yeah, you see where it gets thrown off. It says, then you know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
And by
That throws it off.
what?
Hmm?
And what's the sign that the desolation of Jerusalem is nigh in Luke 21? Surrounded by armies.
Surrounded by armies. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of differences. But what about in Matthew? It's not surrounded by armies. When you see the abomination of desolation, know that its desolation is nigh. There was no abomination of desolation in 70 AD.
70 AD, no, right. But you can see how you can read it that way.
Yeah, and it's not going to be surrounded by armies at the end of the age. Just on the last day, they will come in and desolate Jerusalem. Okay. Brenda, tu avais une question?
Oui, j'aimerais savoir quel est le lien entre le verset 21 et la deuxième désolation.
On va revenir. OK, on s'en va là. OK. Le verset 21, un instant. OK, ben. They were surrounded by armies for 5 months, right? And they did flee to the mountains. And I'm sure, Brother Thomas, you studied that a fair amount, right? You can probably tell me more than I can say.
Yeah, Masada.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about this?
Oh.
No? Okay. But there was a lot of persecution.
I'm not being funny. It's just take up
too much time. Yeah, it's long. There's so much that happened. It was horrific. And that's when
a lot of people died.
Yeah, it was horrible. Like, people think that was the end of the age. Well, no, it's going to be a lot worse. Okay, so anything, any question, any statement, any?
No, you identified some really good gaps here from Daniel and now here these. Yeah, you can especially referencing back to Matthew when you say here, armies compassing and the desolation thereof is nigh.
And I got a full study on that compares both chapters. I mean, there's 6 or 7 major differences. I'll send it forward. I'll put it up. And okay. Was there something, Sister Lisa, you want to bring? Or?
No.
Okay. Sister Denise?
Well, do you have an example of fearful sights? I noticed in Luke 21 he mentions fearful sights.
Yes, it does, yeah. And it also mentions commotions. I wanted to mention that. What do you talk about? What do you mean by commotions? Means like you have those manifestations. Gay rights, abortion rights, women's rights, all these are manifestations. Those are commotions. That's what that means. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Which is happening now.
Right.
But that's in the beginning of sorrows, right? In Luke. So he's describing the same period, but he adds a few things. Fearful sights. there's probably a lot of things. And what does it say where is that? What verse is it, Sister Denise?
Oh, I don't have the verse.
Just a minute here. I'm just gonna find.
Listen.
Yeah, but I know it does say that.
Verset 11 de Luc.
Wait, you're right, yeah. Pestilence, the earthquakes, in diverse places. There's regular places, but now it's in diverse places that are not usual, that don't usually have earthquakes. Famines, more than ever.
Luke 21:11.
Yeah, pestilences. We already talked about this, COVID, and many other ones, measles, and now the monkeypox, and all these crazy things they're creating. Which one?
Is there the chicken flu or something?
Yeah, bird flu, I think.
Yeah,
bird
that
flu.
people are getting. Yeah.
Fearful sights. Would that be something
SpaceX?
like what's that?
SpaceX.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna just say. Maybe stuff that outer space, things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got these aliens showing up in our backyards.
That's funny.
Anyways.
And Donald Trump today just ordered a decisive and powerful military strike against Houthi forces in Yemen.
Oh yeah.
We got that too.
Yeah.
Him declaring no more war. He's going to end it all. And then sends
fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. There's things. I mean, that we can probably look and find that things unusual, chemtrails. I don't know what all, but it says from heaven. So there's a lot of stuff that is man-made, but also there's also warnings from God, also from nature, actually,
Mm-hmm.
that are happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep on going now. We want to know, when does this come back? When you read down all the way of Luke and you find that all the things that he describes from verse 12 to 24, the reference to where it takes place, you can see all these things happen, is the book of Acts, which is past. That's why it was right, Sister Lisa, to say this is what's happening before 70 AD. All this persecution and all these things. And the difference in 70 AD, anytime you want to translate, Brother James, tell me.
Brenda, c'est bon?
Non.
Mais il était en train de dire en fait que à partir du verset 12 jusqu'à le verset 20, c'est tout ce qui s'est passé dans l'histoire de l'Église, dans le livre des Actes. Donc après la crucifixion du Seigneur Jésus-Christ et sa résurrection, quand il a déversé le Saint-Esprit le jour de la Pentecôte, dans Actes chapitre 2 que tu as vu, l'Église a commencé. Et à partir de ce moment, la persécution de l'Église a commencé. Donc c'est ça qu'on décrit ici. Cette persécution-là, jusqu'à l'an 70 où la désolation s'est passée à Jérusalem. Au verset 20.
Oui. Donc c'est ça. And here's another difference in Luke 21. See?
Donc, il y a une autre différence. Voici une autre différence dans Luc chapitre 21.
Verse 22 says, for these be the days of vengeance. Days is in plural.
Donc, le verset 22, ça dit car ce seront des jours de vengeance. Et les jours sont au pluriel, jours de vengeance.
Where at the end of the age, everything will happen in one day.
Alors que à la fin des temps, à la fin de cet âge, toute la colère et la vengeance va se passer en une seule journée, comme on a vu dans Isaïe 61.
As we just read a little while ago from Isaiah 61 verse 2. The day of vengeance, singular. Okay, so we got days of vengeance in 70 AD, and we got one day of vengeance at the end of the age.
Donc, on a les jours de vengeance lors de la deuxième désolation à l'an 70. Et nous avons un jour de vengeance à la fin de cet âge, la troisième désolation.
Now, we got things that took place there that were similar to what will be at the end of the age.
Brenda, une question.
Oui.
Oui, j'aimerais savoir si cette vengeance, c'est la vengeance qu'il n'avait pas lue quand il a déroulé le rouleau. Il avait laissé.
Pas ici dans Luc 21.
Ok.
C'est dans Luc 20, ici, c'est les jours de vengeance au pluriel qui ont eu lieu à la désolation de Jérusalem en l'an 70.
La deuxième désolation par les Romains.
Dans le rouleau d'Ésaïe, ça parle de un jour unique de vengeance. Et ça, c'est à 6-7 places dans l'Ancien Testament, ou 4-5 places. Et qui parle d'un jour de le grand jour de Dieu, le jour terrible, le jour de la colère. Et à travers les Écritures, il y a 9 versets qui parlent du jour de l'Éternel. OK. All right, so we have similar things both in 70, 80, and at the end of the age, where it's a matter of those who are in Judea that will need to flee in the mountains. That happens in both.
Donc, nous avons des similitudes dans Luc 21 et dans Matthieu chapitre 24, dans le sens que les chrétiens sont appelés à fuir. Et c'est les chrétiens qui sont en Judée sont appelés à fuir dans les montagnes. Donc, dans les deux descriptions, que ce soit à l'an 70 ou que ce soit à la fin de cet âge, c'est le même appel qui est fait.
Okay. And then verse 24 cannot apply to the end of the age.
Et le verset 24 ne peut pas être appliqué à la fin de cet âge.
Let's read it. Go ahead, Sister Brenda, or Sister Lisa, either one.
Verse 24.
Yes.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Ils tomberont sous le tranchant de l'épée, ils seront amenés captifs parmi toutes les nations, et Jérusalem sera foulée aux pieds par les nations, jusqu'à ce que les temps des nations soient accomplis.
Okay, can that happen at the end of the age? They're going to be taken captive among the Gentiles?
No.
No.
Français?
Est-ce que cela peut arriver à la fin de cet âge? Est-ce que les chrétiens juifs qui étaient là à Jérusalem vont être amenés captifs parmi les nations à la fin de cet âge? Non.
Okay, so this is another thing that this makes a difference. Okay?
Je vais juste expliquer à Brenda. Brenda, pourquoi? Parce que les chrétiens à la fin de l'âge, ils sont répartis dans toutes les nations. Il n'y a plus juste les chrétiens, les juifs, mais c'est toutes les nations qui constituent des chrétiens maintenant à la fin de cet âge. Donc c'est pour ça que ça ne fait aucun sens de placer cet événement-ci à la fin de l'âge.
Et c'est la fin. Et à la fin de l'âge, c'est la fin.
C'est la fin.
It's the end, right? You get to the end of the age. Well, that's the end. You know, we do see something in Zechariah about some being taken, but they're taken to a place where the birds of prey come and eat them. And they're taken to be destroyed. So it's totally different. We won't get into that because there's a lot here we're covering. Okay. What happens next? Verse 25, between verse 24 and verse 25, there's another gigantic gap.
Donc ensuite, qu'est-ce qui va arriver? Nous voyons qu'entre le verset 24 de Luc 21 et le verset 25, il y a un autre gap gigantesque.
Let's read that. Verse 25.
And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
Let's keep reading to 28.
Men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your head, for your redemption draweth nigh.
En français.
Verset 21 au verset 28, Brenda.
Il y aura des signes dans le soleil, dans la lune et dans les étoiles. Et sur la terre, il y aura de l'angoisse chez les nations qui ne sauront que faire au bruit de la mer et des flots. Les hommes rendant l'âme de terreur dans l'attente de ce qui surviendra pour la terre, car les puissances des cieux seront ébranlées. Alors on verra le Fils de l'homme venant sur une nuée avec puissance et une grande gloire. Quand ces choses commenceront à arriver, redressez-vous et levez vos têtes parce que votre délivrance approche.
Okay, so you see how this is talking about the last day of the age.
Yep.
Okay, vas-y. Okay, vas-y, Frère James.
Et vous voyez comment ceci parle à propos du dernier jour de cet âge.
And there shall, verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun. What's that? And the sun shall turn what? Black, right? The sun is going to become black as a sackcloth, right?
Au verset 25, ça dit, il y aura des signes dans le soleil. Ça veut dire quoi? On voit dans Matthieu 24 que ça signifie que le soleil ne donnera plus de sa lumière. Donc ça va devenir noir.
So the same thing as in Matthew 24, it says the sun shall not give its light. So it comes back. The what?
Non, ça va donner froid.
Ah, ok, yeah, it's going to get cold, but ça, c'est juste la dernière journée qu'il y a vraiment un Shabbat événement du Seigneur. Ok? Ouais. Oui. Et, okay. And, in the moon, well, what's going to happen to the moon?
It's going to turn red.
Yeah, the moon. Yeah, we can see that now. We can see this is now we're back in parallel with Matthew 24.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a gap there from what Luke described is the 70 AD desolation of Jerusalem. And now he's describing the last day, the day that the Lord comes. So we have from the year 70 AD to, let's say, good estimate, 2033. How many years is that? 1,960 60 some. What's it? 2033. Who's got a calculator? Quick. 2033 minus 70. 2033 moins 76.
1963.
1963 year gap. Is it there? Or am I just imagining things?
Is it what?
Est-ce que je suis là juste en train d'imaginer les choses?
Ou est-ce que c'est vraiment là?
Yeah,
Ou
yeah,
il y a
imagine.
vraiment
This is all fantasy and fiction.
That's what people prefer to say.
Hmm.
They don't want to see it that clear.
No.
No, who wants to see that?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that.
They don't want this world to end.
Not like that. Not like he's put.
We're tired. We want to go back home.
So you see the two gaps there in Luke. We got one of 1,970 70 years in reverse, and then we got another one of 1,960. Yeah. No, I could be wrong, but anyway, so it's just under 2,000, right?
Yeah.
So
It would take 5 or 6 years.
yeah, well, let me just calculate here. So it's 1963 is the forward. Okay, the forward, the one from verse 24 to 25, and the other one was what? I'd say
33.
1992 or 93. So in reverse, beginning of sorrows to back to the birth of the church. Donc on a 1000 entre le verset 24 et 25, on a un écart de 1963 ans vers l'avant, de la destruction de Jérusalem en 1970 à aller au dernier jour où Jésus revient. Et entre le verset 11 et le verset 12, between verses 11 and 12, il y a un écart de 1993. 92 ans à peu près, 93 ans. En reculant. À partir de juste avant la tribulation, aller au commencement de l'Église en 33. Il y a deux écarts.
Verset 11 est futur par rapport au verset 12.
That's a good point. Yeah. So verse 11 is future in relation to verse 12. Yeah. 1990 years. 1990 ans, à peu près 12 ans. Le verset 11 est 1992 ans plus tard que le verset 12. So those are the kind of gaps. They're everywhere.
Mais comment on sait que c'est dans le présent?
Ben parce qu'on comprend. On comprend le contexte. On comprend où est-ce que les choses se passent.
Mais c'est parce que tu mets l'année 2025, c'est pas un hasard.
Non, mais c'est très proche. Ça peut être 2026. Je pourrais dire 2026. C'est vraiment, tu sais, c'est une petite variance. There's a slight variation to see this in exact here because, of course, the persecution of the church, la persécution de l'Église primitive, c'est sur plusieurs années. Sur une période d'environ 37 ans. Donc, il y a un peu de variance, là, on peut dire. So there's quite a bit there. So where did we go? We found gaps in Daniel 9:27, gaps in Daniel 12, verse 1 to 3. We found gaps in Isaiah 61, verse 1 and 2. We found gaps in between Revelation 5 and Revelation 6. We found a gap in in Revelation 6, verse 12, in Revelation 11, verse 19. We found a gap in Luke 21, two gaps there in Luke 21, and que des écarts partout dans les prophéties. So that's just normal that there will be gaps in prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the way it is. That's just the way prophecies are written. You know, once you start to see that, then you stop fearing gaps. I don't know how people can still think in terms of there's no gap, you know. But anyways,
when you think about it, Jesus was actually prophesying in those passages,
absolutely,
and it's different from his other statements like the Beatitudes. This was he was speaking prophecy.
That was prophecies. Yes, yes.
So you have to apply the principle.
Even in John 5:43, Jesus prophesied, says, I come in my Father's name and you receive me not. But if another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. That was a prophecy of the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
What about the 10 wise and foolish virgins?
Yeah, that's also prophecies, yes.
You should. What about that video, Brother Michelle, that you told me 2030? I think it was.
Yeah,
remember that series?
Yeah, I think I mentioned
Messiah 2030.
Oh, I mentioned it to Brother Ignatius. Yeah, Brother Thomas, if you ever want to watch that, Sister Denise,
You
Messiah
should watch it. It's full of prophecies.
2030.
yeah.
That was really good. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay. Revelation 7. That's easy. We explained. Well, that's easy. It's easy for us because we got this down, but it's people who don't know. We're getting close to the, and even I think that even no 14. It's more like it may jump a few days here and there, but they're not necessarily gaps. There's some. I like to mention gaps when we can get at least very close to major space of time that can clearly be identified as to how long or close, you know. Revelation 7, the 144,000. I'll send that to you too, Sister Denise. I don't think you were there. We done that last Sunday. So that was good. What verse?
Before the verse 1.
Yeah, let's read verses 1 to 3, just to identify where we are. Okay.
Yes.
Mazzy, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Brenda, Sister Brenda, you can read. Apocalypse.
Apocalypse chapitre 5.
Wait,
Chapitre 5.
7.
7. 1 à 3. Après cela, je vis 4 anges debout aux 4 coins de la terre. Ils retenaient les 4 vents de la terre afin qu'ils ne soufflent point de vent sur la terre, ni sur la mer, ni sur aucun arbre. Et je vis un autre ange qui montait du côté du soleil levant et qui tenait le sceau du Dieu vivant. Il cria d'une voix forte aux 4 anges à qui il avait été donné de faire du mal à la terre et à la mer, et il dit, ne faites point de mal à la terre, ni à la mer, ni aux arbres, jusqu'à ce que nous ayons marqué du sceau le front des serviteurs de notre Dieu.
Okay, Sister Lisa.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth.